Hi everyone, welcome to Car Seats 101. This event is sponsored by AAA Northeast and Cohen's Children's Hospital. My name is Lauren Paterno. I work in Government and Public Affairs for AAA Northeast. This evening we will discuss the basics to child passenger safety, and you will learn what the best car seat is for your child. To discuss all things car seats, we have Karen Blackburn from AAA. Karen is a traffic safety specialist and conducts traffic safety programs for children as young as 3 all the way up to seniors. Karen is a certified child car seat technician instructor and is a self-professed safety nerd. Thank you, Karen, for being here today.
Thanks.
Next, we have Jill Semino. Jillian serves as the Pediatric Injury Prevention Coordinator for Cohen's Children's Medical Center. She is a certified child passenger safety technician instructor and also a special needs technician. Jill also serves on the Nassau County Representative on the New York State Governor's Child Passenger Safety Advisory Board. Thank you, Jillian, for being here tonight. All right, so just a little housekeeping before we begin. We're going to give time for Karen and Jill to speak. And then if you have any questions along the way, feel free to type them into the chat and we will answer them at the end. All right, so first Karen is going to share her knowledge regarding the different types of seats, rear facing, convertibles, all in one, what do we buy? And she will discuss prices and why this does not always indicate the best seat. All right, Karen, take it away.
Terrific. Thanks. Alec, if we can have our PowerPoint come on up. And I don't see it. Is it? There it is. All right. Terrific. So for many of our people who are either parents, grandparents, you know somebody who's having a kid, one of the most common questions that Jill as a technician gets, that I get, is, well, what's the best seat? What's the seat that you recommend for me? What's the best seat going to be? And it's a tough question to answer. Next slide, right? We buy all kinds of things for our and it's just so much fun. We have to buy a crib, we got to buy a stroller, we have to buy a high chair. There are so many things. I went to my niece's baby shower over the weekend, and she got all these wonderful, wonderful products. And there were a few in there like, not a good safety pick. But so, you know, I shared a little bit of information with her, and it must be so confusing. There are so many things out on the market. How do you know, well, what's going to be the best thing for your baby? Next slide. All right, but today we're talking just about the car seat, and this is such an important feature. We all go in the car every day, and maybe when you first bring the baby home from the hospital, maybe you're not going in the car as much because you don't want to go out, but you have to take the baby out, and we know that we want our child to be safe. And so next. So there are so many things. Keep going. We got so many choices, so many different kinds of brands, types of car seats, functions. Where's the place to buy one? What is the best one? That's what everybody wants to know. And a lot of people think, like, how hard could that be to put in? When Lauren introduced us, she told you that Jill and I are both car seat instructors. That means that we train other technicians, and we have to go through a lot of training. And you might say, well, how hard could it be? And I will tell you, and Jill will tell you the same thing, many people are making some errors, and we'll talk about what some of those errors might be, but we really want to make sure that you know what it is that you're looking for in a car seat, and just some basic information. Next slide. All right, and again, the best seat for your child, next, is going to be, I'm going to let you know that all of the seats that are out on the market are crash tested, and they're all federally approved. So a seat that might cost $50 or $60 passes the same tests that the $400 seat passes. All right, so, you know, cost might not be the thing that's going to indicate that. They all pass the crash tests. Next. So we're going to tell you that the best seat is the one that fits your child, their height, their weight, their age, the one that fits in your vehicle. Not every seat fits in every vehicle. And we want to have one that fits your budget. As we mentioned, and I will show you some slides tonight that might show you the range. And when you see the kinds of seats that I have, we are not endorsing any one particular seat. We just want to show you the range and what are some of the things that you might look for, you know, on the box or on the packaging to help you make a better selection. Next. We also would be remiss if we didn't tell you why children need car seats. According to NHTSA in 2018, and I'm sure that there are more updated numbers, but even still, 634 children, 12 and under, were killed in traffic crashes in passenger vehicles. And that's telling us every 32 seconds there's a child who's involved in a crash. And in passenger cars, here's the stat that I want you to remember. I'm not a stat person, and this is really the only slide that you're going to see that. But car seats can reduce an infant's risk of fatal injury by 71%. Like that's significant. Okay, we know that we don't want to see children, actually go to the next slide because this will talk about this a little bit more. We don't want to see children sitting on a parent's lap, thinking that a parent could, even for just a short little ride, hold them on their lap or strap them in with the seatbelt with the baby, you know, right next to them. That's going to hurt or injure or possibly even kill your child on the lap. If the child is on the lap outside the seatbelt, your child becomes a projectile in a crash. And if we're trying to use the seatbelt for any child who's too small, and we'll talk about that too, the seatbelt can really hurt them. So New York state law tells us, next, that children have to ride rear facing until they're at least 2 years old, or they exceed the height and weight recommendations of the car seat. Jill's going to show you some slides later on that actually show you, you know, where you find that information. It's right on the car seat and in the manual and on the box. 2 years old. That's pretty old. The next, all children under the age of 8 must be in some sort of federally approved child car seat. That could be a booster seat, a seat with a 5-point harness, could be a high back booster seat, a low back booster seat, but they have to be in something until they're at least 8. Go ahead. And children under the age of 4 and weigh less than 40 pounds have to be in a car seat that has what we call a 5-point harness. That's the clip that goes across their chest and has the 2 crotch buckles. Next. I'm also going to tell you that the laws differ from best practice. Just because a child turns 8 years old, they're not likely to be ready to use the seatbelt unless they're at least 4'9" and weigh between 80 and 100 pounds. A child who is 2 years old might not be ready to be turned around forward facing because maybe they're still too small. And a child who's under the age of 4 and weighs less than 40 pounds, ideally we want to keep them rear facing as long as possible. They might be 3 years old before you turn them around. They might be 4, maybe not. And your 8-year-old, that might be 8, 9, 10, 11. You may have a 5th or 6th grader who still needs a booster seat. So even though New York state law gives us the bare minimum doesn't mean that's the best practice. All right, next slide. Here's how they work basically. Number 1, there's 5 points. They keep the baby in the car. Easy, that's easy. I mentioned before about becoming a projectile in the car in the event of a crash. A car seat's going to keep them in. And that harness that we talked about, the 5-point harness, contacts the strongest parts of their body. It spreads the crash forces across their body so that, for example, on a seatbelt, all of the crash forces are going on the shoulder and across the hips. With a 5-point harness, it's spread all across their entire torso, and that makes the crash forces lessen. Big one, car seat protects the head, neck, and spine in the case of an injury, and that's important. And it also helps the body to slow down, or what we call ride down, the crash forces. That sounds very technical, but essentially we really want to keep that baby, one with the car seat, one with the car, so that they're not going to have any kind of crash internally or externally. Next slide. So today's focus is actually going to be on your first car seat. But I am going to tell you, we're going to touch on all kinds because your first seat could be one of several different kinds of seats. And like I said, there are so many seats out there, and a lot of people are like, well, what's this one? Why can't I get that one now? Like, you know what? Might not be ready for a particular kind, or maybe you are. So next seat slide. As soon as we get, there you go. The next slide is this is our rear facing only seat. And this is probably the most popular kind of car seat that we get when we are coming home from the hospital. Very, very popular. It can only be installed rear facing, and that's what we want. Most of the time they range from a 4-pound to 5-pound minimum weight to 30 to 35 pounds. Usually the base only is what's installed in the car, and the carrier comes in and out. And what a lot of people like about it, there's two things. One, you can buy more than one base and put the base in, you know, grandma's car, put it in the babysitter's car. You can put it in more than one car and just have the one car seat. You only have one baby, so the baby's always going to be with the carrier. But this way, it's less expensive and super convenient. They also frequently come as a travel system. And again, this is a nice feature that a lot of people like to use. It comes with the base, it comes with the carrier, and it comes with a stroller that the carrier can click into. I'm not here to worry about the stroller thing, really just talking about the car seat, but again, this is one of the popular features. Next slide. On our next slide, you're going to see several kinds, go ahead, Alec, several kinds of rear-facing only seats. And to the average person who's looking at this and like, they all look the same. What's the difference? So all of the seats that you see here come with a base, which you can see in the bottom right corner where it says the Nuna Pippa. They come with a base that is installed in the car. And you can see the carrier, it has a handle. Most of them have a shade that covers over the top. Super convenient. But if you look at the prices that are here, and these are just, I made sure that they were all up to date. This is all as of within a week. Even Flow Light Max, $99. Okay, and again, the range, it can carry a baby who weighs from between 40, a 40-pound baby would be pretty heavy. A 4-pound baby to a 35-pound baby. You can see that the Graco Snug Ride ranged anywhere from $149 to $169. The Kiko seat, $199 to $239. You can see we're going up a little bit in the price. And the Nuna at $349. And you might say, well, what's the difference in those seats? Again, they all meet the same safety standards. They all meet that. So what you're going to look at are features within the base, within the carrier. How lengthy is the vehicle seat? How many children are you putting in the back seat? Do you have another child? Again, you're looking at convenience factors. Some are easier to install than others. Next slide. The next type of seat, which again could be the seat that you're coming home from the hospital, is called a convertible seat. And we call it convertible because it can be installed either rear facing for that infant coming home from the hospital. And when the child reaches the upper weight limit of the rear facing mode, you can reinstall it facing forward. And again, they typically can accommodate a newborn from around 5 pounds rear facing and up to 40 to 65 pounds forward facing. This comes with a 5-point harness that can be adjusted as your baby grows. Some of them have a back that can easily raise up, that helps you raise the harnesses. And again, Jill's going to talk about some of those features in her section. But we want you to know that with a convertible seat, and that's what it's going to say on the box, on the package, it's going to usually end 65 pounds is about the highest weight limit that they go towards. They are making them so they can accommodate a rear-facing child longer. They used to be, much different. But 65 pounds will tell you that after you're done with your convertible seat, you're going to need another seat. Next slide. Here are some examples. And again, we're looking at the Even Flow Tribute, which is a very basic seat, but meets all the safety standards, anywhere from $60 to $70. And again, you can use it rear facing to 40 pounds. It does tell you can use it forward facing from 22 pounds to 40 pounds. And you know what? We would never recommend having a child at 22 pounds being turned around. We really want that child to be a little bit heavier. You can look at the Graco Extend-A-Fit, which does have a feature that allows the leg portion to come out a little bit. Some people are concerned that their baby's feet are going to hit the back of their vehicle seat. And you know what? That's okay. We don't mind if that happens. This seat particularly does allow you to give a little more distance. It makes it a little harder to install, but you know, it's a nice to have, but definitely not a need to have. All right, and you can see, again, it goes up to 65 pounds in the forward-facing position. And you look at the Britex Boulevard Click Tight at 355. This has a very easy to install feature. It has approximately the same weight recommendations as the Graco seat, but there are some features on that seat that make it perhaps easier to install. And ease of installation is something that you want to figure into your selection. Next slide. All right, for your baby coming home from the hospital, we can use either the Latch System, which is a series of connectors that are on the seat with an anchor that's in your car. And all cars from 2000 on have those anchors in there. If you have an older car, or for whatever reason you can't access the anchors, you can also install them with the seat belt. We don't want to use both. Your infant seat may come with an infant insert, and it usually will say in the instructions how many pounds should your baby be before you remove that. And again, sometimes it's only like 11 pounds. And if you have a 10-pound baby, you're not using that infant seat insert for that long. So again, take a look at the instructions. The shoulder harnesses for coming home from the hospital are likely going to be in the lowest position. And when you buy your seat, that's where they're going to be, because they assume you're using this for a brand new baby. But you do want to, if you are reusing a seat that you had from an older child, you want to make sure that we slide those shoulder harnesses down. And again, Jill's going to cover that. Most of our seats have some kind of recline where they can go back a little bit further, and the infant seat is back pretty far. Your child's laying down, not 100% down, just a little bit up, because we don't want their neck to tip down and do anything right in over here to their windpipe. They all must be rear facing, and we never want to put a car seat in the front seat, especially if there is an airbag there. Definitely all of our car seats that we're talking about are meant to go into the back seat. Next slide. Our next kind of seat, this is where things start getting a little hairy, everybody. Woo! Combination seats. A combination seat is different from a convertible seat. Most of them are specifically a forward-facing car seat. And again, if you looked at them side by side, you might say, well, these two seats look the same to me. A forward-facing seat will not have anything on the seat that will imply that you can install it rear-facing. So again, you want to look at the manual. You want to look at the car seat itself. Booster seats some booster seats are combination seats. It might come with a 5-point harness, and then it might extend up, and after they outgrow the harness, you could take the harness out and use just the seat belt. The big thing is that combination seats are generally not rear-facing car seats. They're typically referred to as a 3-in-1 seat. So if you see those words 3-in-1, pay attention to what it says. If it says rear-facing, but Jill, am I right? They're usually all forward-facing. And they come with a 5-point harness and whatnot. So don't accidentally buy the combination seat when you want your child to be rear facing. And along that line, if you are a new parent to be, and you've put on your baby registry an infant seat and a combination seat, or the next kind of seat that I'm going to tell you about, I'm going to recommend wait with the combination seat, wait with the 4-in-1 or the bigger seat, because our car seats are going to expire. I'll get to that in a little bit in another couple of slides, but just keep that in the back of your brain. Next slide. Right, and again, here's some examples, right? Don't these look, they look a lot like the other seats that I just showed you, like a lot like the convertible seats. However, they definitely don't have any kind of belt path to install rear facing. So again, you're looking at the even flow seat at $80. I didn't mean to only pick even flow seats as the least expensive seats. There's lots and lots and lots of seats out there. I just happen to have easy access to a lot of their information. Great seats, but again, what's going to fit your budget? The Graco Nautilus, I happen to love. Again, it goes up to from 22 pounds, which again, we would probably not put a 22-pound child in this seat because we still want them rear facing till they're closer to 30 or 35 pounds. But once they're ready to be turned around, this might be an option for you because it's got the 5-point harness and it raises up. And the same thing with the Britex Grow With You Click Tight. The Grow With You Click Tight has a higher upper weight, and that would be my recommendation. Look for a seat that has a high upper weight so you have room to grow in it. But again, you see there's some significance in the price differences. Next slide. Here we go. This is the all-in-one seat, and these are becoming extremely popular. All right, it might say on the box all-in-one or 4-in-1, and they're all going to describe it as this is the seat that does it all. You can use it rear-facing for new babies. You can use it forward-facing with a 5-point harness. You can use that as a high back booster, as a low back booster, and most of them are for children 5 pounds to 110 pounds, and they all are like, this is the only seat you'll ever need. So just, again, a piece of information. These kind of seats are very heavy. They're going to stay in your car, so they don't have that, the ease of use that an infant seat has. But maybe this is the seat that you buy for grandma or grandpa, or because then they won't ever have to replace the seat. If you're going to use this from the time your child comes home from the hospital to the time they can use the seat belt, I just want you to think about the dirt and grime factor as well. Kids are messy. You also want to select a seat that's easy to clean. Next slide. All right, these are two pretty popular ones. Again, you have your Britex Click Tight all-in-one. Again, very easy to install. It installs easily with the seat belt, or the Graco seat, which again can use either both seats can use either the latch or the seat belt. But you can see that on the Graco seat, if you look at the little bottom on the bottom right, it converts to a low back booster, which again, the Britex seat does not. Both excellent choices. All right, and again, both of those models have lots of versions. You're going to go blind, like, what's the difference between the deluxe and the this and the that? We don't care about cup holders. You know what? You might care about a cup. We don't want your child drinking in their car seat because it makes things sticky. So if they're like, oh, it has cup holders, that's like, you know, nice, but definitely not a safety feature. Next slide. The booster seats, and again, I did not even put a slide on here because if you are a new person coming home from the hospital with a baby, we're not even looking at these for quite some time. They're for big kids after they outgrow the 5-point harness in whatever seat they're in, after they outgrow, you know, that height and weight requirement. And it's the seat belt that holds both the child and the car seat in. There's high backs, there's low backs. This is definitely not your child's first seat, no matter what. All right, they really need to be, as we saw on our slides for New York State law says 40 pounds, 4 years old, that they still need to be in a 5-point harness. And I'm going to tell you, they really should be older than that before they're switching out to the not using the harness anymore, you know, and to just going to a high back booster. They really need to be a little bit bigger. Next slide. All right. We got it. As your baby grows, these are some things to keep an eye on. Go ahead, click. We want to, again, pay attention to the incline as your baby gets bigger from that reclining position where they're lying back. Eventually, with a convertible seat, with a high back booster seat, your child is going to become more and more upright. So again, we're going to pay attention to the instructions. Next, we're going to pay attention to the, and you can click through these pretty quick, Alec. The shoulder harness position on a rear-facing seat, the shoulder harness should be slightly below or at shoulder level. And on a forward-facing seat, at shoulder level or just a teeny little bit above. We want to use that rear-facing position until the child's outgrown. And again, I sound like a broken record. Maximum height and weight limit that's listed on the seat. Next. Use the 5-point harness until the child is outgrown the maximum height and weight required by the seat. And we want to not graduate to the next step too soon. And very frequently we'll hear people say, oh, I think they're ready to go forward facing. They're so big. I want to see their face. No, no. Keep them in the seat. Don't graduate. The quicker that you graduate them out, you're taking a step out of safety. And let's face it, these are your children. We want them to be as safe as possible. Next. When we are moving to the forward-facing position, you are going to need to switch to the seatbelt installation if you were previously using the latch. All of our car seats have a weight limit, and it usually coincides with about the time when you are turning them around. A little trickier on the installation. So both Jill and I are going to emphasize a really important thing, that we want you to seek help. I mentioned before that as technicians, we go through training. The initial training is 4 days. 4 days, 4 full days, not just like an hour, no. 4 full days, because there are so many things to learn about how to install our car seats and to use them safely. So if we've been through that training, we want to tell you that, you know, using the seatbelt installation is not always easy, or even just we want to make sure that you're using it correctly. So Jill's going to have some ways where can you find a technician, you know, besides using just Jill or myself. Next. All right, and again, car seats do expire. Sometimes people, when we tell them that, they're like, come on, really? For real? Isn't that just so that the car seat manufacturers can sell you something else? No, it's for real. So depending on this type of seat, anywhere between 6 years and 10 years, which means that if you are using one of those all-in-one seats, those are usually good for 10 years. They're not going to sell you a seat that's going to expire. But the infant seats typically have a 6-year span. The components that the plastics are made of, and that the materials in the seat, you know, where we live, extremely cold in the winter, extremely hot in the summer in your car, right? The temperatures are very, you know, fluctuating, and all the stopping and starting, constant jarring on all of those parts does put wear and tear on them. So we want to look right on the seat, and you can see from this is an example of a label, and it says do not use after November 2017. All right, so that's why I don't want you to put all your car seats on your baby registry. If you're going to have a seat that's going to sit in your garage for a year till you're ready to use it, well, then it's sitting there expiring. So take that out and return it. If you get one as a baby gift, return it, get a gift certificate for whatever store that you're bringing it back to, and get one a year later. And again, chances are the manufacturers are going to have some new fabulous, they're coming out with stuff all the time. So the sticker's on every single car seat. Sometimes it's on the bottom, sometimes it's on the back. You got to look for it. It'll also be on the package and on the registration card that Jill's going to talk to you about. Next slide. All right, so to answer that question, what's the best seat? Go ahead. The best seat for you is the one that fits your child, that fits your vehicle, and that fits your budget. Now, there's a whole lot more in there, and Jill's going to share a lot of her expertise. And again, I can't say enough, like, bow down, bow down. Jill is a tremendously knowledgeable, lot of great information for you. We're not trying to overwhelm you, but we do want you to have the best information out there. So take it away, Jill.
Thank you so much, Karen. I was nodding along with a lot of what you were saying because I couldn't agree anymore. Oh, thank you, Alec. Okay. Oh. Sorry, everyone. Bear with me for a second. All right. Are you guys able to see my screen okay?
Yep, looking good.
Thank you. All right. Hi, everybody. So my name is Jillian. I am the Injury Prevention Coordinator at Cohen Children's Medical Center. So I do have a slightly different lens. I deal a lot with parents, especially new or expecting parents. I teach a lot of different classes. At Cohen's, we hold car seat checks in partnership with LIJ, which is a birthing hospital. So through the years, I picked up a lot of tips and tricks that I like to share with new parents. So we're going to keep it as brief as we can, but as Karen mentioned, there is a lot. It's very confusing when it comes to car seats, and there's a lot of information out there. So let's get right to it. So as Karen said, if you are on this webinar and this has made you think about the seat that you have, or the seat that you want to have, or you're not sure which seat you should get, what should you do? Well, you should register for an appointment. So this QR code is going to take you to a link to my Eventbrite page for my events. But here on Long Island and in New York, there are quite a few fitting stations. This is really a service that we want you to get for free. It's encouraged, as Karen mentioned, we are both instructors, and when we teach the curriculum, this is really something that Safe Kids, the accrediting body for the certification for car seat technicians, feels strongly should be available for free. It should be a community service. So not really something that you should have to pay for. So all of you are on here or watching this because you want to know, how do I keep my baby safe? So first thing you can do is make sure you register anything you purchase for your child. Car seat, stroller, high chair, bassinet, crib, really any container or car seat or any device that you're using for your child, even the swing, comes with a recall card, and you want to make sure that you're filling that out with your correct name, address, and email address, because we can all move, right? Another question I get asked pretty commonly is new versus used car seats and other devices, and Karen touched on this briefly. Obviously, if this was your car seat and you used it, you know the history, but I really encourage parents and caregivers, when possible, to really purchase their car seat as new. And if for some reason, you have some financial constraints and you are unable to do that, there are a lot of local community resources that I can connect you with, and you can use that QR code to get in touch with me, where we can connect you with your local coalition who really can provide you with a free car seat. I just like to throw in here, I feel the same way about most children's devices, including pack and plays, bassinets. I would rather see you purchase the least expensive, most basic new device than take the most expensive one secondhand. So when it comes to child and baby safety, the National Highway Safety Administration, they are the accrediting body for car seats, so they set the standards that every car seat has to meet. And as Karen mentioned, you can spend $60 on a car seat, or you can spend $600 on a car seat. And that car seat is going to meet the same safety standards. There's only one standard. It encompasses all of the different criteria required for car seats, and they all have to meet it. Now, there are different features on car seats and convenience features that may affect the price point. So the more features, the more convenient it is to install. What typically happens is we watch that price point go from $60 to $100 to $200 fairly quickly. But from a safety standpoint, they all meet the same safety requirements. And for all other devices, the Consumer Product Safety Commission, or the CPSC, is the accrediting body and sets the standards for things like bassinets, cribs, pack and plays. And I just like to highlight the difference in that when I do this. So everything that you heard from Karen and everything that you're going to hear from me is all based on recommendations from experts. So while some people may consider Karen and I experts on this topic matter, we are certainly well versed on it. Our information is actually coming from other validated resources. So it comes from National Highway Safety Administration. It comes from the American Academy of Pediatrics, Safe Kids Worldwide, larger organizations doing research and making best practice recommendations based on facts. So what I know as both a new mom and somebody who's been working in the child safety space for the last 8 years. Ooh, where'd my screen go? Oh, there we go. Is that there are a lot of external factors that really confuses decision making. So I'm sure most of you on here are either on social media, maybe your partner is on social media, but things like Facebook groups, local mom pages, I often see that they promote incorrect and dangerous information. This is very popular on Instagram, on Facebook. I see this all the time. Then you have social media influencers who are actually paid by the manufacturers of these products, who are being influenced to share this with their followers. That's certainly an influence. Social media ads, I get that. As I mentioned, I'm a new mom. Obviously, Google and my phone know this. I'm getting targeted with ads for different things all the time. Another piece that we'll get into in a few minutes is the product manufacturers. So you would assume if you were buying a product from, I'm not calling them out in any way, but if you were purchasing a Graco car seat, well, you're trusting Graco to produce something that's safe. So if you saw another product by Graco, you're going to make the assumption that it's safe, and that's not always the case. So sometimes the car seat manufacturers, all of them across the board, they tend to sell things that we as technicians and experts don't always recommend. The family and friend experience, I get this a lot. You know, my family thinks it's ridiculous that my daughter is rear facing, that they're like, oh, but her feet are touching the back of the seat. And you know, they can't wrap their mind around the fact that kids now stay rear facing until a minimum of age 2, as Karen mentioned. And then you have the cultural norms. Every culture, you know, has their own beliefs. Every country has their own way that they practice safety. And while we respect and understand all of that, tonight we're going to talk about, you know, what's safe here for our country and for our families and children that are living in it. So to get to how to keep your baby safe in the car seat, we have our 5 steps, and that is the direction that the car seat is facing in, which leads to selecting the car seat, which leads to doing the installation, deciding where you're putting it, and finally harnessing your child in. And we're going to briefly touch on all of these tonight. So I'm not going to get too much into this because I know Karen did. She gave you all of the basics for rear facing. My recommendation is really to get as close to 3 or past 3 as possible. That is safest, and we heard before why rear facing is so much safer. We have forward facing harness seats, booster seats, and then finally seat belts. And again, that's the direction that kind of determined selection. So which seat is right for you? We're going to take this golden standard of selection and we're going to break it down a little bit further, and hopefully I can give you some tools to pick the correct car seat. But as I mentioned, it's important to know the history of your seat. So if you know you're on a budget and you're in the market for a car seat, there is nothing wrong with buying that $60 or $40 car seat. It is just as safe as the flashy, expensive one that your friend may have. So when it comes to rear-facing car seats, we mentioned before, children have to ride rear-facing until a minimum of 2. It is how they ride safest, and these are the 2 most common ones. So we have an infant seat versus a convertible seat, 3-in-1, 4-in-1, 5-in-1. There's so many different names for these seats. But basically what we have is the infant bucket seat that attaches to the base, and then some sort of a harness seat that goes from rear facing to forward facing. I can tell you, as somebody who works at a children's hospital, in addition to everything Karen mentioned about the infant seat, I know specifically that our NICU nurses do not like sending newborns home in convertible seats. They prefer infant seats, and they think that they ride much better and fit more snug in them. So while I can't so much speak to that myself, that is a little piece that I've gotten along the way and something that I've learned. As Karen mentioned, there's also the thought of using the same car seat for 10 years. I was just in the market for a new seat myself. I'm looking and I see that the expiration date on this one particular seat was 10 years after the manufacture date. And I'm thinking, I can't imagine my baby being in the same car seat for 10 years, because kids, they make a mess. That's what they're here for. That's what they do. So that's definitely something to take into consideration as well. Again, I prefer this infant seat over here, any variation of it, any brand, but I prefer to see a newborn baby in that. Okay, so there's a couple of things that you can do to prep your infant seat for that first ride, and I'm going to give you some of my recommendations. So as I mentioned before, first thing you can do to keep your child safe is fill out that recall card and mail it in. Recalls happen when one of two things: the car seat manufacturer or product manufacturer identifies a defect themselves, or unfortunately, there's been reported injuries or deaths and it's forced upon them. So first things first, get that recall card in, make sure your email address is up to date and written correctly. As I mentioned, we all know people can move. So number two, make an appointment to learn how to install your car seat from a technician. What I found out over the last, I guess now are we 15 months into this at this point? That's kind of crazy to think about. If you had told me 17 months ago that I would be doing car seat checks over FaceTime, I would have said that you are insane. But what I have found a little over the last year is that virtually works well too. Obviously, we all prefer in person, but there is no issue doing a car seat check virtually. Most of the time, we're able to get it in 100% right. So if you are expecting, you want to make sure that that harness strap and headrest are at the lowest position. So here on my car seat, you see the different harness straps that we have on this. There's 3 of them. These are the lowest. I don't care even if you have a 10, 12 pounder. These are where your harness straps need to be, because as Karen mentioned, for the rear facing crash dynamics, we want to make sure the baby is cupped and cocooned in the seat to offer more support for the baby's head, neck, and spinal cord. I like to recommend removing the harness pads, and I'm going to click. You'll see exactly what I mean by that in the next photo. I'll start with that. What I find is that these pads really push that retainer clip down. And if you'll think back to what Karen mentioned, this is a 5-point harness system making contact with the 5 strongest parts of the baby's body and spreading the force out across the baby's bones. What I find is when there's padding on the harness straps, it pushes the retainer clip down over the baby's belly where all his or her important organs are. We want the retainer clip to be nipple level at the armpits. And then each infant seat is going to come with an infant insert. So will any of the 5-in-1s, 3-in-1s, 4-in-1s, they all come with infant inserts. You just want to make sure that you know the weight of yours and you don't add any inserts to the seat that you purchased. So now we talked a little bit about selection, direction. For installation and location, I'm going to recommend that you go to a certified technician. But there was that last step that was harnessing. And I think that this image explains pretty well what your baby should look like in their infant seat. So step by step, step 1, you want to ensure that the harness straps are at or below the baby's shoulders. And when I say that to a lot of first-time parents, I was getting a lot of perplexed looks. So I thought this image was a really good way to show, you see how these straps, they're going over the shoulder, down behind and below. So you want to make sure that the baby shoulders are at the harness slot or below. And now for our newborn, we're just gonna put it on the lowest slot and we're gonna try our best because that's all we have to work with. But be prepared that that little baby's gonna be all scrunched up and it's gonna be difficult to get him or her in 100% correct, but within a few days, they grow to fit fine. You also wanna make sure that the baby's head is centered, his or her head is centered in the headrest. You're going to place the baby's bottom all the way to the back of the seat when you put them in. That's really important. So you want the bottom to touch where the back of the infant seat meets the bottom, the seat bite. That really is the safest way for them to travel, and it prevents them from being scrunched down too low or pushed up too high. I typically like to recommend starting to buckle the baby in at the crotch buckle down at the bottom for that newborn, pulling the slack out so that it gets tight around the hips first, and then buckling the retainer clip. Usually down at the bottom of the car seat, somewhere over here, there's a little slack that allows you to pull the harness tight, and you want to pull the harness tight enough that it can pass the pinch test. So what's the pinch test? Well, if you see where this arrow is, I would take my 2 fingers, bring my thumb and pointer together, and I would try and pinch some slack on the harness. As long as I can't pinch any slack, the harness is on correctly. And your last step for your installation is to ensure that the harness retainer clip is armpit level, just as is pictured here. So now we're going to get a little bit into some of the features I was talking about when I went through preparing your seat, and we're going to get into some of the different features that affect the price point of a car seat. So here we have 2 different infant seats. I didn't pick them based on brand preference. I just picked them because together they offer a lot of fancy features. So here we have our basic carry handle, canopy, retainer clip, crotch buckle. You're going to see that everywhere. Basically, that comes standard on every car seat. This one, I mentioned your infant insert. This one has an infant insert and a headrest. This one does have a weight limit on it of 11 pounds. And as I mentioned, it's important to keep that in mind. And do you remember before when I was talking about removing the shoulder pads before that first ride? This is what I meant by the shoulder pads. If you look, they're pretty thick. So when they are Velcroed or buttoned on and it doesn't say anything against it in the manual, I advise to take it off. When it's on, it tends to push this retainer clip down over the baby's belly. Now, here we have some features that do add to the price point. So now this base has 2 fancy features. One of them is called a Rebound Bar. The other is called a load leg. Now, you may or may not have an infant seat with that feature. Maybe you're just working on your registry now, or you're expecting and you're not sure. These 2 features come on a variety of car seats. Some of them have just the Rebound Bar. Some of them have just the load leg. The more popular is the combination of both. Most manufacturers have a base now that offers both of them. So as we mentioned multiple times, all car seats pass the same crash testing. But manufacturers will claim, and they show crash testing videos, so you can come to your own conclusions whether or not you want to take their word for it, but they claim that some of these features will reduce movement and keep the baby safer in a car crash. However, legally, there are no federal standards for these extra safety features, so it's up to you whether or not that's something that you want to take their word for and invest in. Now, continuing on, there are other things and other features to consider when picking a car seat. As Karen mentioned, one of the most important things is a lock-off. There are only a few, and I can only think of 2 car seat manufacturers that sell bases with no lock-off. But let me tell you, a lock-off makes it much easier to install a car seat when latch is unavailable, or if a child has outgrown the weight requirements of latch. So if you have the means to do so, I highly recommend upgrading your infant seat or your convertible seat, whatever it may be, to a seat that has a lock off. And it's important, if you have an older child and you're considering purchasing a convertible seat, that you make sure there's a lock off for both rear facing and forward facing, because some of the manufacturers will get you with that. Not having a lock off, it's okay. It doesn't make the car seat any less safe. It's just then another step for installation, and it can make it a little bit more difficult for caregivers. So I would say, we have some features like the Rebound Bar and the load leg that are more optional, and they're safety features, supposed safety features, because like I said, we're trusting the car seat manufacturers on that because they all pass the same safety standards. But these are convenience features that, to be frank, sometimes don't really change the price point all that much. We're talking like maybe $20 more, but really do make your life easier in terms of practice. So lock-off styles, they'll vary by manufacturer. If we go back to this base, this whole thing opens up and becomes a lock-off. They look different. The best way to find out is to really do your research, do some investigating on the seats that you're interested in, reach out to a technician to see if they can give you a consultation. Other things to consider is car seat and vehicle compatibility. So every vehicle back seat is different. Every car seat is different. They come in all shapes and sizes, just like kids. So you need to determine, is the length of my car seat compatible with the space in my back seat? I like to measure the back seat as a guide, and I start down here at the seat bite and work my way up towards where the back of the front vehicle seat is. And believe it or not, pre-COVID, Bye Bye Baby did allow you to take car seats out into your car. I know this for sure because I did this. I had one particular car seat in my mind that I wanted to buy. I've been doing this since I was 23 years old. And I thought to myself, this is the car seat I'm getting. Well, it came time for me to finally pick my car seat out. I went into Bye Bye Baby. I'm looking at the seat and I'm like, I never realized how big this is. Can I take it out to my car? So last January, January 2020, I took it out to my car. I tried to put it in and it only fit in the center seating position. And I realized this is not a good seat for my car. It's not compatible with my vehicle if I can only fit it in one seating position. I need something that can fit in all three. So again, as we have emphasized, the best thing that you can do for installation and location, or if you're unsure of which car seat will fit with your vehicle, if you maybe have a sedan or a two-door sedan and you think you might have some trouble, or you have multiple kids, the best thing you can do is to schedule a car seat check with a child passenger safety technician. So the number of people who think they have their child in the right seat is this high. This is the number that actually do. So we know 7 out of 10 car seats are installed incorrectly in the US. So this is a big problem. And motor vehicle crashes is the leading cause of death of all Americans under the age of 40. At Cohen Children's Medical Center, it's in our top 3 leading mechanisms of injury. So I highly encourage all of you that are on here to make an appointment with a technician. I have my QR code for my events up, but Karen AAA does car seat checks, as well as many other nonprofit and community organizations. Highly encourage you to make an appointment. So now, as I mentioned, we are attached to a birthing hospital. So I do teach a variety of classes, and one of the ones that I do is kind of like a registry focused class. So I thought I would incorporate, I'm assuming that we have some new or expectant parents on here, some of my registry no-nos when it comes to car seat accessories. So first is a seat cover. Those are not crash tested. We do not know how they'll affect a car seat in the event of a crash, and therefore we don't install car seats with them. Next is the baby mirror. Even though that little cutie is adorable and you want to look at him or her in your rear view mirror, it's a no for 2 reasons. One, it can become unattached in the event of a crash and can become a projectile. And as things pick up speed, they pick up weight. So they like to say weight times speed is the formula for the force that you're hit with. So if you think about it, if you're traveling at 30 miles an hour and you had something that weighed 2 pounds in your car, it would feel like you got hit with 60 in the event of a crash. That mirror can become undone and it could hit the child and it may seriously injure them. So that's number 1. Number 2, a few years ago at the car seat conference, I did see a presentation by one of the other children's hospitals in the country, and they spoke about how car seat mirrors are more dangerous than texting and driving. So that's a big no-no. We have car seat shades. I recommend the ones that adhere to the window. These are like the curtains that you would have in your home. We never recommend any additional padding. We don't recommend winter coats, and we don't recommend any car seat covers that go behind the harness like this one. So these are my registry recommendations instead. So you can do adhesive shades that have no plastic on them that attach directly to the window. You can do a car seat cover like this. It looks like a shower cap, if you will. It goes over the car seat instead of the other one that goes under and behind. And I always like to recommend parents, instead of worrying about trying to get your baby in the puffy jacket, which we know is unsafe in the car, you should really just register for a fleece. And I recommend investing in a couple of them. Nothing thicker than a fleece should go behind the baby's harness. Okay, a common problem that we've seen quite a bit at the Children's Hospital, and I'm pretty lucky because in our emergency department, we do have 3 technicians. We have 3 certified technicians who are nurses. Sorry, my PowerPoint's going a little rogue. Who actually caught to counterfeit car seats. So all I did was type in car seat into my Google search bar, and these options came up when I started searching. So these are actually not FMVSS, so that's the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard, that NHTSA set that Karen and I both referred to. These do not meet that requirement, and yet you can purchase them online. This causes a lot of confusion for parents and caregivers, and we spoke about external factors. So the way that you can avoid falling prey to this is by always checking for FMVSS. I'll show you where you can find that in the next couple of slides. Make sure essential paperwork is included, such as a manual or that recall card, and register your car seat. Every single car seat is legally required to have a recall card attached to it. If it doesn't, that's a red flag. And honestly, look for obvious design flaws. So Karen and I both emphasized in the United States, we have that 5-point harness system. Anything with a 3-point harness like this or this red seat over here, I'm not sure if it's being blocked, but those are 3-point harnesses. We don't use them in the United States. And European seats or Canadian seats, they're not crash tested in the United States unless they say they meet the standard. And if they don't have a 5-point harness, they don't comply with the FMVSS. And beware of third-party sellers and generic brand names. I'm not going to tell anybody not to purchase car seats on Amazon, but I do advise against it just because it is difficult to determine if it's a third-party seller or actually the company. This is a perfect example of a counterfeit car seat, and you know, it's really shameful that these manufacturers get away with this, because if you take a look at this, looking at the picture of this car seat here, you have what looks exactly like a Duna car seat. So over on the right in the blue, This is from the actual Doona webpage online. Over here, this is just a Doona. I typed in Doona lookalike on Google and this website came up. Now, if you look at the price point, if I'm an uneducated consumer, I'm assuming that I'm about to save myself $200 on a Doona car seat. And some of you may remember, I think it was CBS did some crash testing. They bought a couple counterfeit Doonas and they crash tested them on a sled the same way Doona crash tests them. The video was horrifying. These car seats, they're not actually car seats, do not meet the federal motor vehicle safety standards at all. They do not hold up. They fall apart in the event of a crash. Now, I can see so easily how a parent would fall prey to this, and things are already so expensive. So you think you're going to save yourself a couple $100, and little do you know you're actually putting your child's life at risk. So best thing that you can do is make sure each car, you're buying it from a reputable dealer. You know, I don't like to endorse any companies, but I'll typically recommend going to a store that you can purchasing online from a store that you can also walk into. We have images here. We have some over here of the side of the seat. Over here we have, it's not a sticker, but the manual that comes with it. There's the certification for airline use, and it says it, Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard 213 for use in motor vehicles, and that it's also certified in use of aircraft. And over here, all the way to the right, we have a picture of the recall card. And I see we are a little bit over time, but I also additionally have some resources that I highly recommend. These are some valid resources where you can get information about car seat and general child safety. Thank you all so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Jill. A lot of valuable information. And Karen actually took down my mirror in my car when she was helping me install my car seat, which I was like, what? You're taking this away from me? So thank you for that information. It's very helpful. I think many parents out there have those mirrors that don't realize how dangerous they really are. We did have one question, which I think we may have answered, but let's go back to it a little bit. If a child is 3 and weighs 40 pounds, should they still be in a 5-point harness?
Yes. So again, look at the car seat, but 40 pounds, and again, on the car seat that they're using, you want to use it to whatever is the maximum amount that's listed on the side, on the sticker on the side. If 40 pounds is the limit, and it might be, but it probably is not. If 40 pounds is the limit, then either it's time for a totally different seat, but we want to use that 5-point harness as long as we can. So you have to go with what's listed on the seat.
And I'll just add to that, it's pretty standard for most forward-facing harness seats to have harness weight limits of 50 pounds, but majority of them exceed and go up to 65 pounds.
Yeah.
So forward facing 5-point harness as long as possible until they max out the weight and height forward facing.
Right, that's listed on the seat, right? I'd like to add actually one other thing that, we talked about reading the manual, and, frequently parents will like, I couldn't really read the manual. There's so much information in there. And yeah, there is a lot. What we typically recommend, and I know Jill got into this practice when we started doing virtual installations, of requiring the parent, look at the manual, look at the manufacturer's installation video. If you type in Graco baby installation video for blah, blah, blah car seat, the manufacturer typically has installation videos. But Jillian also talked about the mom groups, and you want to make sure that if you're looking at an installation video, that it's being done by a certified car seat technician or the actual manufacturer. If it's just the guy down the street, you know what? It's no different than taking somebody else off the street who might not be doing it the correct way. So you can see how there would be room for confusion, but make sure that you look for the credentials in those installation videos. They're super helpful. And if you come to a car seat check and already have some of that knowledge, or you've looked at the manual, you know, some of the manuals are a little confusing, but take the time to go and look through them and then ask your questions. You can also call if you know, are unsure of something that's in your manual. You can pick up the phone and call us or email us, and you know, we can also take a look at it from there if you're not sure of what something means.
All right, well, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We went a little over, but all good information that is very important when picking out a car seat. So I just want to thank Karen and Jill again for your time and for your expertise. It's very important that parents have the knowledge ahead of time. And if you are still unsure and you want more information, please feel free to reach out to AAA or to Cohen's Children's Hospital, and we are here to help. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Stay safe and have a good night. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.